Josh Heupel falls 0-4 to Kirby Smart.
Carson Beck finally fits in with the Georgia culture, quickly and violently driving down the field.
I'm Shea, and this is Jace. Welcome to the PCS Volcast. Georgia wins 31-17 in Athens last night. We're going to go over our thoughts, the M and LVPs, and how our predictions held up.
Yeah, Tennessee gets their second loss in the season. First loss was to Arkansas, obviously, and now to Georgia. That was a tough game to watch as a Vols fan. I mean, every year we play Georgia, they just do such a good job at just taking away something that we're really good at. Like this, 2022, it was our potent offense. We only scored 17 or 13 points, whatever it was.
Under 20.
And this year is our elite defensive line and our pass rush. We'll get into, that was a huge key to the game for me. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they completely eliminated our pass rush, wholeheartedly. Beck did not get sacked.
He hardly got pressured.
Let me see how many we only had 2 TFLs. There's just nothing in their backfield was able to go our way for the most part.
James Pierce Jr. didn't have the game we were hoping for. This is what we talked about before.
Mm-hmm.
You said that, if he has a breakout game, please be this game. He had the opposite.
Yep.
Because I'm sure he got a pressure here and there, but he had that false start. He whiffed on the tackle, the arm tackle on Beck, which gave him his first rushing touchdown of the year.
Yeah.
And other than that, you never really saw him in the game.
He had one James Pierce dominant TFL, and I think he might have maybe had 2 pressures, probably not, but maybe. And yeah, that was it. That was really all our D-line could do, and that kind of allowed Carson Beck to play like prime Tom Brady. That was just
yeah, kind of. It also our linebackers and safeties played a big part in this. He was able to get the ball out really quickly on the seam routes because our zone is predictable, and you can't really blame the pass rush there because he got the ball out and way too quick for them to get home. But you got to blame the safeties and the linebackers because it's the defense is a whole. So I was really disappointed by that too.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it 3 or 4 times.
I want to go back to the beginning of the game real quick because we saw, we were talking about this during the game. In the first quarter, for the most part, whenever Carson Beck had time, whenever it wasn't a screen or a quick drawn-up throw, whenever he had time to deliberate on his pass, he would miss. Because in the first quarter, he was not very good. And then, as you said, on that, our 2 best defensive players really, really screwed up on one play, and it was curtains from there, it felt like. Because, that one play I'm talking about is the one you said where James Pierce had the offsides, tried to jump the snap, and then Beck got confidence to throw it wherever he wanted because it was a free play. He throws it to, I don't remember who the Georgia guy was.
Number 6, I think. Whoever that is.
Jamal McCoy was guarding him, and then he tries to hit him and knock the ball out, but he just gets brushed off.
Well, yeah, he tries to hit him with his shoulder and knock the ball out that way, but he just was hitting him in the back. Didn't really. You weren't going for the ball.
Yeah, on that one play, that gave Carson Beck confidence, and he was damn near 100% accuracy after that. He was so accurate. That looked like a performance that a preseason Heisman would have. It's unfortunate that it came against us, I guess. Every season that an athlete does not perform to their expectations, whether it's higher or lower, there's always going to be an anomaly game. I bet $1,000 that in the SC Championship or Georgia's first playoff game, Carson Beck's going to look like Carson Beck again and throw those 2 picks, and they're going to lose.
This is for sure his best game against a real opponent.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 98 QBR out of 100.
Right.
Okay, and before this, it was 91 was his best, and that was at Clemson on week 1. But yeah, he had his best game of the season. He got his first rushing touchdown. He still missed, like you said. And he just still looked goofy as hell out there. But it didn't matter because he did enough. I don't think he played above and beyond. He played hit like what is expected of him, he didn't play above that at all. He just played how he should have, you know.
I guess. I mean, but there were I don't know. There were some throws that he made. I mean, I'm not going to take more opportunity to like hype him up, but there were some throws that he made that were pretty impressive. You know.
Well, the one I'm thinking of specifically is the one in the end zone.
The first
over the head of
that was a really really good pass.
Arian Carter.
Yep. But talking more, I guess, about Tennessee, like I know what you're saying. We allowed him to do that. Like, he played well. Yeah. I'll give him that, but we allowed him to do that. He could have been sitting in the pocket, the whole game, sending Willie pictures to all the Georgia girls or whatever, on Snapchat. So we were allowing him to piece us up, do whatever he wanted to do to us. And it looked like in the first half that would have been okay because we were still keeping up with them. We went out to that 10-0 lead. I thought our offense played pretty good in the first half, but everything fell off a cliff in the second half. Our adjustments were either non-existent or they didn't work, offensively and defensively, and just Dylan Sampson just wasn't enough in the second half to get us anywhere.
Yeah, my last note on the defense from last night is that they bent and broke, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
Like you said, I mean, at first we were keeping up with them, but yeah, the second half adjustments weren't there, and we weren't able to stop them at all. It was just embarrassing. This is our strength of our team.
Talking about our offense and their defense, I thought their defense played pretty good. I mean, they got 5 sacks. I didn't Dylan Sampson again had a pretty good game. Like, he was our best player once again. I didn't think Nico played that bad. The stats don't look amazing, but he wasn't the reason we lost the game, right? Even just looking at the offense, I blame that more on the O-line and the receivers. Now, I know the O-line has a tough task to block that Georgia front, which both Georgia fronts looked vastly improved from last week or against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
So props to them on that. But O-line just didn't do enough. As I said, Nico got sacked 5 times. For what Nico could do, they weren't helping him out. And the receivers weren't either. Dante had a few drops. We were watching the game, and every drop every catch just kind of looked awkward. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that was mostly Nico's fault on the slant. It was always behind them and above them, so they had to jump and catch it like this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like you said, Nico played good enough in my opinion. He basically did what he's been doing all season, but a little bit better. He just was not missing as often.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't really see as many deep shots in this game.
We probably only saw one. Again, props to Georgia. Georgia's been so good at limiting our explosive plays primarily, but more specifically the long touchdown throws or just the long throws in general. They've been really good at that forever. I mean, ever since Heupel came to town, pretty much. So
yeah, I mean, I didn't want to pull my hair out watching Nico like I did during the Arkansas game. I don't know. He just was okay. And so were the receivers. They were just okay.
Yeah.
Besides Brew, he looked pretty good out there.
His Nico's accuracy was as you said, it was okay. The one thing that I was impressed with is that until the end of the game when he fumbled, he just shot the ball out of his arms, he wasn't rattled. We had a few 3rd and 4th downs in a hostile environment against a top 12 team, and he delivered. Sometimes I feel like we haven't really seen that. If we're playing Arkansas, we have no confidence that he's going to convert that, and he did a few times.
True,
so
yeah.
I was happy about that. I think we're at the point in the season where we're seeing Nico get kind of noticeably get better each game, which in the state that Tennessee's in right now, I think that's kind of all you can hope for, right?
Yeah, and us going for it on 4th down looked really good too.
Yep.
Now that formation that we kept running was so obvious, and I guess it worked every time. And if it's going to work against Georgia, hopefully it can work against anybody. But I don't really like seeing that formation out there.
I understand. I mean, if it works, it works. And if you have a guy like Dylan Sampson, teams know we're going to run it anyways, so why not just load up with all the blockers?
True. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so Sampson played good, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, and got his touchdown, of course. But he just wasn't enough. And that's been the story of his season. In every game, he just is not enough to win it for us. He's not. I love Dylan Sampson, but he's really not that game breaker. He's just not a game breaking running back. He's just a really good running back that does his job really well.
He's the type, like, okay, if you look at a lot of his touchdowns, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of them have come from inside the 5, right?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly, but I would guess that the touchdown run he had last night, where that was a beautiful run, the blocking was good. He got that one hole, just blew right by the 2 linebackers.
That was beautiful.
Might have been one of his longer touchdowns of the year.
Yeah.
Which, he is like, I don't want to play Dylan Sampson if I'm an opposing team, because he is just, I feel like he's super annoying to play against, because he never stops his legs. He always picks up those extra yards. He converts those 4th downs, but he's probably not going to give you that, he's not going to give you that 30-yard touchdown run every game. It's just going to be punching it in.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean as game breaker.
Right, I understand.
And Nico's not a game breaker, and none of our receivers are, and I don't know. We just kind of came out there. I will say that first drive by us was beautiful. It's perfect. We finally completed a first quarter drive. Usually we see a fumble or a turnover or, just anything to stop us from getting points there. But, yeah, credit to Heupel there. I think he did a good job offensively, but back to his adjustments, they were terrible. He got absolutely outcoached in this game.
Yeah, 100%.
And I am so sick of the penalties. He cannot discipline these men, okay? 2 offsides, a few holdings, as always. The face mask, you can't really control that.
That 12th man on the field.
Oh, the 12th man on the field. That's
Heupel, that's 100% Heupel's fault. I think what was happening there.
No hustle.
I think what was happening there, in the moment, it kind of made sense what was happening. So basically, whenever the offense substitutes, the defense is then allowed to substitute as well. So Georgia was kind of taking their time on the play clock. They substituted, and then I think it was Bryson Easton or somebody. They were walking off the field because they were trying to drain as much play clock as possible, so that maybe Georgia would get a delay game. But I assume there's a rule that when it gets to however many seconds, it doesn't matter anymore, and you just have to hustle up. So, and usually also the ref stands over the ball and limits them to snap it or something. But that was just an awkward play, and you can't, even though it was kind of an awkward situation, you can't take the blame off of whoever that was, and then also Heupel. Like you've got to tell your guys to sub quickly, even if you're trying to play mind games or run the time off. I don't know. It's just
I mean, the officiating in this game was pretty terrible, but it's not their fault.
Yeah, I agree.
It's completely our fault. We didn't score a single point in the second half. That's not the officials' fault. So
you see that video, or just even when you're watching it in the game, where Carson Beck clearly false starts before he gets for the ball snapped on that one play. There were some weird fumbling situations.
Yeah.
Those first 2 fumbles, or that first fumble, that was not a fumble, of course. That was an incomplete pass. And then I was pretty pissed off that they one of their tight ends caught a ball. He tucked it, and then he turned his body, and then he fumbled it, and they didn't review it.
Yeah, that was annoying.
There was a lot of stuff that was infuriating as a Tennessee fan, but you're 100% right. We can acknowledge that there weren't perfect calls the whole game, but that's not what won the game for Georgia, you know. So.
Because we got some our way too.
And we just kind of we just choked. We just kind of choked, you know what I mean? So
we choked in the second quarter. That's the crazy part.
Going back to some of the adjustments, because I think that's an interesting part of it. I do think the 2 ways that we lost this game big time were our lines of scrimmage got bullied, and then our adjustments were terrible. Or I don't even know if there were adjustments, to be honest. I just think we were tied going into half. They were like, all right, we're tied. We get the ball. Let's just go back out there, try it again. And Beck didn't lose any momentum, and then we lost, basically. Yeah. I've been a huge supporter of Tim Banks this season, deservingly so. He's called a really good defense, and obviously he's had great players to coach in that regard. But he was just terrible in this game. You have to give Carson Beck a few different looks in the second half after he just pieces us up in the second quarter. He literally did nothing. He was being paid to do nothing this game, and that was just so annoying. I understand Georgia out-physicaled us, and they deserve to win the lines of scrimmage, but just give him a different look. Blitz everybody or drop everyone back or just do something weird a few times, but get him out of his rhythm because he was just dominant in the second half.
And the zone was not working. Switch to man. I don't really pay attention to how often they play man or zone, but I just noticed how often that we get dotted up on a zone play.
It's pretty glaring.
Yeah, it's you can just tell that it was zone every single time. And it was working for him, and he never changed it.
To be fair to our secondary, because they did not have a good game whatsoever. They got pieced up. They got, mossed on a few times. But to be fair to our secondary, there's not much they can do if we don't get pressure. Especially if you look at the stats. Carson Beck has been so horrendously bad this year against pressure. And he's been good without, it's just clear as day. And we let him operate in a clean pocket, and then he did exactly what the stats told us they would do, and he dotted us up in it. So I'm not trying to excuse the secondary or the linebacking core or anything like that, but they just didn't get any help from our D-line at all.
For perspective, against Florida, he had the exact same amount of attempts and completions with 25 completions on 40 attempts. He had less yards against Florida, 2 touchdowns again, but he had 3 picks and was sacked twice and had a QBR of 63. So what was the difference? The pressure.
The pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's super obvious, yep, unfortunately. And to go back to some of the penalties, I mean, there were 2 super infuriating things as a Vols fan when watching this game. One was the penalties. We absolutely do not deserve a playoff berth if we're going to have this amount of penalties.
Yeah.
Just shooting ourselves in the foot in a game that is so crucial to us, where we could have won. I mean, we could have won this game if we didn't have penalties and we were a little bit more tight on defense, I think.
Yeah.
Because we only scored 17 points on offense, which is unacceptable, but I think this game kind of snowballed, and the way that Georgia was playing, they took so much time off the clock when they had the ball because we just couldn't stop them, and that didn't really give our offense a lot of chances. And then when Nico was on the field, I feel like there was this huge expectation for him to score, and when there's this expectation on you like that, I feel like your chances of doing that are lower. You know what I mean?
Well, I kind of had hope in him every time that he would score, but it would be a 2nd and 2, and we would get
penalty.
a holding. So.
And he was never able to get rhythm like Carson Beck was either.
Yeah, no, never.
And the last thing, and this is really frustrating to me because I think this maybe says a little bit about our coaching somehow or something like that. But all season we've been in the SEC play, we've been a horrible first half team, and we've always turned it on in the second half. We had a good amount of points against Kentucky, Mississippi State in the second half, and in this game it's the complete opposite. Why? I have no idea. I guess Heupel had a good game plan going in, and then as we said, our adjustments were bad. We got out-coached, whatever it may be, but we got shut out in the second half of this game, right? So it just makes no sense, and it's unfortunate going forward for our season.
Yeah, we come out swinging 17 points in the first half, and we just flipped it, like you said, and 0 in the second half. Let's look at our M and LVPs from this game. I only have one MVP, and it's not – Tennessee doesn't really have one for me. You could say, Dylan Sampson's probably the best candidate for it, but like I said, he just is not a game breaker, and he needed to be in this game, and he wasn't. And I love him, but he's not my MVP. I just don't think Tennessee deserves one. But
it's fair.
Kirby Smart is the MVP.
Mm-hmm.
He went down 10-0, and he just was unfazed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he basically did what he did to Alabama, but I guess he was just too far down against Bama.
Right.
But he was not again. He made sure they won this game.
Yep.
I don't really, I can give credit to Beck for doing what he needed to do, and their running backs were terrible, but Kirby Smart really just kind of out-coached Heupel, and that's why they won, in my opinion.
I also had Kirby, and I also give a lot of credit to Mike Bobo, their offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
This is what Bobo's been trying to do all year with Beck, and for some reason, I guess ours are pressure, we've established that, but he was finally able to call the plays that he thought Beck could succeed in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, they overcorrected against Ole Miss.
Yep.
And they found the perfect balance in this game.
Yeah, Mike Bobo and Kirby had a different Carson Beck this game. from what they've been used to, and that makes their job easy, right? Kirby doesn't have to put in overtime to outcoach Heupel at this point.
Yeah. It's happened 4 times now.
Yeah. But my second MVPs is, Carson Beck and just the Georgia tight ends, that connection. I mean, like, every time the ball went, 10, 15 yards downfield and the camera pans, it's just a tight end will catch it every single time. We just got destroyed against their tight ends. I also had both Georgia fronts. We've, talked about this as well. 5 sacks and then no sacks. Both going in their favor. I did say Dylan Sampson as an MVP. I felt like before they jumped out to a 14-point lead at the end of the game, he kind of was giving us a chance at least. Those 4th down conversions under pressure were huge. Obviously, that touchdown run was really good. He had an efficient game against a pretty good Georgia defense. So I was happy about that.
Yeah, I think if you are forced to choose an MVP for Tennessee, it's definitely Sampson.
Mm-hmm. No one on our defense deserves it, of course. No coach deserves it. And Nico didn't really do anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah,
so.
He was just neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the least valuable players, mine starts with the Tennessee D-line. Pressure-wise, I am happy with how they stopped the run.
True.
They did really good. Yeah, they did really good stopping the run. But the pressure was non-existent, and that's just got to, why not? Because we have been so good with pressure all season long, and they just shit the bed here.
Yep. I had the exact same thing. Pass rush, just absolutely nothing. There's not really much to say about that.
Yeah, and then like you said, your MVP was their tight ends. Yeah, that's because our linebacker and safety group is the LVP. They were so bad. Blame it on the zone, whatever, but they just basically ran the same play 3 times, and it worked every time. 15, 20 yards, just right down the middle. We had no answer for it.
Yeah, Bobo was really, really good at drawing up mismatches this game with, as you said, the tight ends against the linebackers and safeties, whether it was Delp running down the field and burning Arian Carter, a linebacker, or mossing a safety, Will Brooks. It worked both ways, and that proves to be unstoppable when you can beat both positions in different ways, I guess. And then my LVP to kind of combat that, I guess, was Tim Banks. Right, he did nothing to address that issue, did nothing to limit Beck at all. He just did nothing. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Took it. Yeah, he did. He just sat there and took Carson Beck. Carson Beck. That's.
And then obviously for my last LVP is an obvious one, adjustments. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about this the entire Volcast.
Oh,
I mean, are you okay over there?
No, that Rotel from last night's fighting back.
Are you okay over there? But the adjustments. Coatman, it's you.
Hello, Vol fan. Yes, I've returned, unfortunately, as Tennessee has taken another loss.
It's been a while. I haven't seen you since the Arkansas game.
Arkansas, yeah. I mean, Tennessee took a loss last night. Obviously not what you want to see, but there are silver linings. So many people thought that this was a playoff elimination game for both teams. And it might have been, to be honest. We'll see. I like to have a good outlook on things, but we know the committee is absolutely stupid, so we'll see what they do. I think there is still a backdoor chance for Tennessee to make it to the playoff. There's kind of a lot of stipulations that have to happen, but on the bright side, if we don't make the playoffs, we're going to set a Citrus Bowl record for the biggest blowout of all time. We're going to, catch Illinois or Iowa, and we're going to beat them by 50. So,
yay!
Yeah, that's back-to-back Citrus Bowl wins. I mean, it's all right. But to make the playoffs, a lot of things have to happen, as I said. BYU lost last night, which doesn't directly help Tennessee. At the moment, it could later on down the line, though. We definitely need to pray on Notre Dame's downfall. If they lose another game, they're probably out with that Northern Illinois loss earlier in the season. If there's some way 4 Big Ten teams do not get in, I think that gives us a really good chance too. Based upon what I've looked at, if Indiana wins out until the Big Ten championship and then gets blown out by Oregon, that could help. That would make Penn State's loss to Ohio State look worse, and then Penn State would have to lose to Minnesota, probably in a bad fashion. That could kick them out of the playoffs. As I said, Notre Dame falling off would help. And this coming week, Ole Miss goes to the Swamp and plays Florida. If Ole Miss loses, then we might switch. Tennessee might switch with Ole Miss, which could help as well. And then, obviously, this goes without saying, but Tennessee needs to win the rest of their games pretty impressively for them to look good for the committee.
Yeah, and Jason and I will be making our own playoff bracket and going over how likely it is for some of these important teams to get in.
Seems like an interesting video. I'll tune in. Tennessee has an easy remaining schedule. Easy. Vanderbilt's been better than people thought this year, but I think they've looked a little bit more human recently. UTEP and Vandy, as I said, need to win both those games convincingly. Some non-playoff things. I think that Tennessee fans, this may be a little bit overlooked. Tennessee fans should be happy about how Nico's playing right now. I think that he set a good baseline for hopefully how he plays the rest of his career, and then continuing to improve on that. We've seen Kentucky, Mississippi State, and now Georgia, 3 games of being serviceable at worst, I would say, because he was looking pretty bad before that, but now I think that he's been better. Dylan Sampson needs 8 more touchdowns to break the SEC all-time touchdown record in a single season. He has 3 games left to do that. It's getting more unlikely by the game, but it's still possible. I mean, Vandy has a horrible running defense. Obviously, UTEP's just a terrible team, and then in the bowl game, anything can happen. That's definitely still alive. And hey, even if nothing happens this football season, we have Nico for another year. Hopefully, Nico and Heupel can get better. But basketball season started, baby.
Hey.
Rick Barnes and the Basket Vols
Okay.
are off to a 3-0 start. The basketball team has a pretty easy schedule, non-conference schedule for the next few games, and then we're going to get to see some really good quality basketball. We have teams like Miami that we're going to play, Illinois. If you're a basketball fan, you might want to, scooch over to that instead of football. And hey, Dalton Connect's going off for the Lakers, all right?
Oh.
I might be reaching a little bit here, but that's my job, all right? He had like 27 points last night in a win. So, yeah, that's pretty good for them.
Suck on that, Edie. Right.
Well, no, they didn't play the Grizzlies. Not to mention, in the SEC, Missouri and LSU are both, mathematically eliminated from any of their postseason hopes, including playoffs, SEC championship. And I think getting a call from LSU fans, their bus got stuck in the swamp. I got to go.
Yeah, that's probably more important.
Goodbye, Vol fan.
I hope I never see you again. Welcome back. You just missed Coke Man.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was here while you were in the bathroom.
Always happens.
So, to round out this episode, Jason and I, like every week, we predicted the game before it happened. So, we did this through the PCSonline.com. If you don't know, the PCS is a very simple and fun way for you and your friends to predict the final score of Tennessee matchups. And afterwards, you get to compare your prediction score with each other. You can even correlate it with a letter grade. Speaking of, I predicted 23-21, Tennessee on top. I was kind of close to the 17 points that Tennessee put up, but it still landed me around 82 points, which is a B+.
Yeah, and I predicted 27-17 Georgia. I was able to find a silver lining to us losing this week by having a really, really good prediction. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but the past 5 games I've had a prediction score of under 80 points. That is good. A B+ or better every week. This week, as you can see, I had a 24 prediction score, which gives me another A. That's back-to-back A's. I'm looking good so far, and yeah, that gap between you and I just keeps on widening every week.
Look, looking at the average, I'm down by 162 points on the season. But on average, we each have a B+ grade.
Mm-hmm.
Or, no. On average, we each have a B- grade. So, that's what I'm looking at. You can win here and there. And, 24 is good, but neither of us have made that A+ grade yet. So, we got 2 games left.
I was 4 points away from an A+.
But again, if you want to do the exact same thing, you can at the PCSonline.com. It's easy. It's free. You can create a league or join for 1 game. You can make this a whole season-long thing. It's a lot of fun. We do it every year. But thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe because we are going to have more content just like this in the future, along with SEC topics. We focus on the Vols mainly, but we also focus on the SEC as well. Like I mentioned when Coatman was here, we will be having our own playoff bracket video along with the possibilities.
We are?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, you missed that.
That's fine.
But
sounds like fun.
Anyway. So, yeah, please stick around for that. Subscribe, like this video if you enjoy the content. This has been Shea and Jace. Thank you so much for watching the PCS Volcast.
Go Vols!
Go Vols!